I'm Margaret Ann Windsor, and I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to show these photos to show you where I'm going with this. It was to take my kidnapping and the takedown of my father, Edward VIII. A plot to take him down, and they did. And I don't know if this is going to go up. The sound was cut off yesterday, and everything its own was then. But anyway, this is my Uncle George in when I was born 1939, and he's with Roosevelt planning my kidnapping in 41. This is my dad, Edward VIII, who married Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, sister to artist Georgia O'Keefe. He was married to my mom 1936 when he was king, so therefore my mom was the Queen of England. He abdicated not to marry this woman, Wallace Simpson. He was married to my mom. And he stayed married to my mom, and they were still alive October the 20th of 86. The double, this is one of the doubles, but the imposter that married Wallace and became the illegal Duke and Duchess of Windsor died in 72. Here is Wallace Simpson in 1941 after they'd kidnapped me, congratulating Eleanor Roosevelt. Job well done. They kidnapped me. She was known as the Queen of England, and my father was trashed. Wasn't even my father. A double married her, and it was a plot to take him down with character assassination, and they did. The reason I showed Larry Flint, I wrote a book in 76 really, about mind control. I was living murders and what you can do with it. And I'm not going to go into that now. I've put enough up on YouTube and Facebook. Anyway, Larry Flint was shot March the 6th, 78. I was living at Moonraker Apartments in Marietta. And that was done in patterns. And later, I didn't get the book published, and I'm going to get into that, just a touch of it. I'm going to turn around and hope this works. Later, I was flown out to his home during a political campaign to replace Larry McDonald, congressman, a physician from Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta. I had written about him in the book. And Mr. Flint helped me in the campaign. And, of course, former District Attorney Buddy Darden won the campaign. And he was a good guy. As far as I know, he really was. Now, I wanted to get to this part about I had a letter from the U.S. Attorney ongoing. There was an FBI investigation. I thought it was because of the book. And ongoing investigation, national security involved. And it was mailed to me by the U.S. Attorney June the 23rd of 79. That's my father's birthday, June the 23rd. So anyway, I want to get to this. The coming April Fool Day of 80. I was given antifreeze. I didn't know what it was. And then there was an injection in the night at the nape of my neck that I knew about that when I woke up, and I was in hell. I knew I was done for if I didn't get some help. So I'm skipping part of this. You can't tell it. And I want to get to the main fact, and that's about Martin Luther King's involvement and Andrew Young, etc., with what happened as a total to me and my country and my children there. I went to the emergency room at West Paces Ferry near Far Road in the governor's mansion. Asked for a tox screen. I got set up. Chelton, who was head of the psych Parkwood in Atlanta, Parkland, Parkwood, Gonzales, it gets involved in all that in Parkland in Dallas where John Kennedy was taken. John Kennedy helped kidnap me and fly me over to Moulton, Alabama, and I was given the name of Peggy Ann Dempsey. I don't have it now. I was going to show a picture of that family, but I have before the Dempseys. What I wanted to get into and say it now, though, before somebody tunes me out, not that I don't know if people just don't pay attention to it. Some people do, a few. But I found out about my kidnapping in '83 after the campaign. I thought the antifreeze and all that should have done me in, actually. I did finally get a talk screen, but I've put all this up. I was stuffed in a car, and they didn't do the talk screen there at Chelton and Beecham. I was supposed to have died. And nobody's touched it. None of the crimes that have been committed have even been acknowledged or addressed. So I passed a background check in May of '80 after the antifreeze. I could hardly talk or type but to go to work for Fred Simpson, the district attorney, Madison County, Huntsville, NASA was started there. Space Center, Redstone Marshall Space Flight Center. Okay, now I was brought there in Moulton, given another name, and this is where I'm going with it. Oh, after I found out about my name, I started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. The Brits were there for me. The Brits told me, and the Germans, about my kidnapping. Well, and then I figured it out. It's out there if you want to look. It seems that Selma, Alabama, doesn't seem that's near Moulton, where they took me to a pigsty, and the torture and assault was unreal. And it kept going, and I didn't know why. I thought when I did the book, it was because of the book, and in part it was, the names and the cases in the book. And Larry McDonald, I think I said that was one of the cases, the doctor, and that goes out. That's probably my fault there. But that's a notification coming in there, I guess, on Facebook. But anyway, let me get to this. I had the antifreeze put in me. I was taken across the state line and worked for the district attorney, and then that's when John Lennon was killed by Mark David Chapman, a program shooting. Now, during this time, I ended up, I was due, my jobs were shut down, and my God, everything was shut off. I didn't have an apartment anymore. My ex-husband had been allowed to come in and take it, and I put that up. It was all illegal. He just come in. I went to mid-May or 8th of March of 1980. Took a trip to his sister's out in Texas. She lived in Abilene, and she lives out from Austin now. I think she's still alive. They were CPAs. And I talked to her just before I left in '80, and she was going to help me look for a job. And if I got one, I was going to stay 2 weeks. I was going to move out there and move the boys out there. So when I got back, well, let me say this. I got out there and got to Dallas and said, here I am. I'm about 3 hours away. She turned me away and said I was no longer welcome. Well, that was a shock. So I went back to Atlanta. I no longer had an apartment. They had illegally, all this was illegal. They had illegally let my ex-husband sign a new lease, move my furniture, use my deposit. Now the lease was in his name. I didn't have one. And believe me, I was going to the cops, the television stations, everything. Guess who typed my manuscript? I was paying her, and nothing against them, but the crime lab in Atlanta, she told this girl that I was paying to type it, told me to call her if I was concerned about something. I called her, and she worked for the crime lab. They answered the phone. So it's not funny, it's so hideous and ongoing, the pain. Anyway, I wanted to get to the antifreeze. If anybody's ever survived it, it's a living hell, and you don't get over it. They burned your brain. And now that I want to get to one of the times I was in Atlanta, they literally put me on the street. I got back to Atlanta, and I have no money. I had a divorce decree that was supposed to have give me money, only no one would do anything about it. I couldn't get it it done to get money. Oh, so I'm on the street, and it's cold and freezing. I just got shut down. Winter, and I was downtown living in a shelter. And I walked to a store downtown, and there was Maynard Jackson, the black mayor. I walked up to him and I told him who I was. And I had ID, and I didn't have the Hustler magazine article then, but I had enough on me. And he said, "Well, I do know you." And he grinned, and he turned around and walked out. And I followed him, and he got in a limo and pulled off. Now, this is Maynard Jackson, who later, I'm going to go ahead and say this, went, went on TV, ABC Good Morning America, about the Wayne Williams murder. He and the police chief, Commissioner Lee Brown, and said that this was a programmed murders there in Atlanta in '79 till they arrested Wayne. And that was right after this program aired on ABC. Maynard Jackson and Commissioner Lee Brown said it was the mechanism used, that Wayne didn't do it. Well, he was arrested and he's in prison in Georgia for those murders. They were done in patterns, and I put all that up about that. So what I wanted to do, though, say was I had the tox report and a bunch of stuff where I'd done the book, and this is prior to the Hustler article and finding out my real name and everything. I was downtown the same time, and I went to Martin Luther King, Mrs. King, the headquarters there, and I asked to see her. And I got flip flops living on the street, but I've got ID and where I did the book and uh, FBI. I think I still had the FBI letter, I believe. Yeah. And so there was no doubt about any of it. She wouldn't see me. I was seeing if this is going up. And finally, I was afraid that they'd have the cops pick me up, because it's like, I don't have any rights. Well, a young man come out, black man. I guess he was in his 30s. Uh, he said that she couldn't talk to me. She was busy, and asked me to step outside in the cold. How cute. And he told me there, he said, we know all of it. I don't know that he said all of it. He knew about me. They knew about me. Well, of course they did. I found out later. But he said to me that we know about mind control. He said, we have a doctor, professor in South Africa that was killed by the use of mind control. So I didn't put it together, the South Africa. And here's where I'm going to go with this. This was Mrs. King. Now, Andrew Young was with Martin Luther King when he was shot and killed in Memphis. Now, later on, Andrew Young becomes, he's elected to Congress, and I won't go in. You can Google it if you care to, and Wikipedia it. But anyway, Andrew Young was carrying on the Martin Luther King civil rights, and he's a reverend, a preacher himself, so was Martin Luther King. So you got ministers involved in this, and God knows who all the organizations that are supposed to protect your human rights, civil rights. What happened was that Martin Luther King, before he died, and Andrew Young partnered with it's really the Illuminati, the global government that's out of a station headquarters out of New York, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers, Kennedys, my own Uncle George, illegal George VI, thus Elizabeth's illegal. It's the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the one world government. The UN was started after they took down my father, after they kidnapped me. Now that's your global government there that's controlled by the Illuminati, Rockefellers, Freemasons. So Martin Luther King and Andrew Young partnered with Kennedy before he died. And the whole thing in this was to take down the British Empire. So my father was a plot to take him down because he wouldn't go along with them. And he's been totally, his character, assassinated with lies. Nothing but lies. He was married to my mom, never this woman, Wallace Simpson. I love it. And look at it, nobody will touch it. They control the media and everything. And quite frankly, I've been told they don't care. There are some people here in America that help. I know that. But the people that saved me were really the citizens of Great Britain and Germany and some of my family over there. And now then, things have changed so much. The culture's gone. Uh, the immigrants and all have come into Europe and to the UK, and they could care less about what happens to me. So anyway, and a lot of people don't even know I exist now. So I leaving out. There's no way I can put it up in here. The crime, the pains, it was like ongoing crimes. They were stacking them. That's what the FBI said. They were stacking them, and they have. I wonder if they start prosecuting any of them, or that if the UK could even prosecute it, the Brits, for God's sake. So, what happened after they kidnapped me was illegal treaties were made and signed, and the United States invaded the UK, is what they did, and positioned the military there under the guise of helping the UK against the Germans. Well, their thing was they just took us over. Um, and they used me in the takedown of my father. And they positioned themselves so that Denmark, Norway, Sweden, etc., those are monarchies. They're relatives of mine, just like they are Elizabeth's. And the Netherlands. But Netherlands really went along with it. Queen Beatrix, I believe, was her name. And she was very wealthy. So part of my family became a part of it. Your war crimes tribunals there. And my God, Kissinger and the Rockefellers are the ones so much a part of it. They're not going to prosecute. You couldn't get this prosecuted or any of it. It's too potent, the truth is. But anyway, I want to get back to Reverend Young. He became mayor in 1982. I was back there and went to his office. I guess that was at the time of the Wayne Williams trial. I'm not sure, but I went to his office and asked to see him, and I had papers on me, and so there wasn't any doubt. In fact, they knew that he had a whole bunch in that room, which was odd. With well, I'm not even going to get into it. Anyway, he wouldn't see me. This is Andrew Young, Reverend. So I left. Now then, I want to read you about Andrew Young. Jimmy Carter became governor of Georgia. I hope I'm not inserting Virginia wrong here. Mayor of Atlanta, and but Andrew Young became friends with Jimmy Carter, and he had been elected to Congress. And you can Google it. I can't get it all up here, so I'm just going to read a little bit from it. The whole point was partnered with the Kennedys and the Illuminati, and I'm a hostage. They've allowed me to run around appearing in plain sight to be free when that's a total lie. Nobody will touch it. So Andrew Young, let me see if I can get it right here. So much part of the civil rights. I don't have a civil right, period. So civil rights leader, well, okay, Julian Bond of Atlanta becomes a part of this, and I didn't Google, I can't remember now the part. But Young also made congressional visits to South Africa in 72, and Zambia, Kenya, and Nigeria in 75. Military action against South African colonies, and I'm not sure, I don't know. Anyway, 1970, Young became acquainted with Jimmy Carter, then governor of Georgia. Young strong relationship. January the 25th, 77, Young accepted President Carter's offer to serve as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.